Good evening, everybody. I know it is just a few minutes before 7 o'clock where I am, and we're waiting for a couple more people, so I'll give it a couple more minutes if you want to grab a cup of coffee or a water or whatever, and we'll get started here shortly. Well, hi, Gary. Thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you for testing out the question section. Just while everybody's kind of getting settled, make sure that if you have any questions, you're all on listen-only mode, of course. But if you have questions, please feel free to send me a message through the system. And if I get a break, I will try and follow up with you. Otherwise, I'll answer all of them at the end. Okay? All right, so I'm showing right at 7 o'clock, and I don't like to keep everybody waiting, so let's go ahead and get started. My name is Robin Piper, that is me on the screen, and I want to thank you for joining me for this evening as we explore the Holy Land. And I'm the Business Development Manager for the Globus family of brands, and I work in partnership with Cruise Holidays of Kansas City to bring you this webinar and webinars that I've done over the last couple of weeks. So while I could discuss travel for hours, I'm really going to try and keep it to 25 minutes or so and give you kind of an overview of what to expect if you're thinking of planning a trip to the Holy Land. We affectionately call it our faith-based travel. So of course, we go to places other than just the Holy Land, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So if you dream about the stories of the scriptures coming to life as you walk through the footsteps of where Jesus once walked, a faith-based vacation might be just the thing for you. In Israel, you'll visit biblical sites of importance and hear the stories of the Bible told as it was passed down from generation to generation. And you'll even, you'll experience floating in the Dead Sea and wind down and prepare as you go on to Jordan, because we do offer Israel and Jordan together. While in Jordan, you can discover Petra, which is one of the new 7 wonders of the world, and take an opportunity to pray and reflect at Mount Nebo and Bethany beyond the Jordan, and bring yourself a little closer to your faith, and at the same time, truly appreciate what an inspirational destination you have chosen. This is the segment where I can't get to move forward. So before we go any further, I do want to talk about who Globus is, because while this is kind of a generic webinar tonight, I do work for the company Globus. We're known as the Globus family of brands, and we have 4 distinct brands. Globus, which I'll talk about tonight, is our first-class fully escorted touring package. Those are fully escorted touring packages. Cosmos is going to be a little bit more affordable, also fully escorted, and we go to, between the two of them, we go to almost 300 countries. So that's pretty amazing. Those would be the focus for us tonight. Monograms is a more independent style travel, and I've talked about that before. And then, of course, Avalon Waterways is our European river cruising experience, small ships in Europe and in Southeast Asia. However, we have been in business for 90 years. We've done things and started with travel beyond what many of us have even been on this earth. So we're in the 5th generation of the family that owns us. And because of that, we can take you all over the globe, from national parks to Italy or Ireland, or maybe even Southeast Asia, and in this case, to the Holy Land. So without further ado, let's talk a little bit about exploring faith and fun with travel. So I think it's important to determine what your goal is. If your goal is to renew your faith and reflect upon centuries of religious history, then one of these inspirational vacations might be just what you're looking for, because it does give you a whole new outlook on these sites and these places that you've read about and learned about for years. And with almost over 9 decades of experience in the travel industry, and specifically with group travel, we really feel we're very proud of the fact that we have this perfect blend of faith, fellowship, and fun in our tours. So you want to make sure that that's really what you're looking for. There are going to be some countries that are, all faith all the time, all biblical sites. We want to immerse you in the destination, in what it has been in the past, and again, what it is here in the future, in the present day, and what it might be in the future. So it just depends on what your goal is in going and discovering it. So tonight we're going to highlight some of the top sites within each country and some hidden gems along the way. We'll talk about the different styles of travel to the region, and even discover some different itineraries. We do offer all of our itineraries as either a Catholic or a Protestant version for you as well. So that might be of interest. You might be more interested in one over the other. And we know that you have many choices when it comes to planning your vacations, but I really would suggest that all of them start with a call to Cruise Holidays of Kansas City. Their team over there is top notch, and Mark and Mimi have been to the Holy Land several times. Also, some of their agents have been as well, and they really will lay out all your different options and find you something that is within your budget and within your time frame. So they're your first call, of course. So making the most of your experience, what are you looking for in a tour? And when it comes to religious tours, I always want to point out that you need to verify two things with no matter what vendor you go with. One, are there religious services included? And two, who will be leading my tour? Is this a person who has a background in faith? Is this a person that knows the history beyond just the faith? And both of those things are true with the Globus family of brands. We understand that religious services are a huge part of faith-based travel, and we not only set aside time in our itineraries for personal reflection, but we also have planned religious services or mass throughout your adventure. And then if a particular day doesn't have a service included in the day where the whole group goes, we will make those services available to you in your free time. So really there's a nice mixture of what you're doing. And in addition to that, we pride ourselves with having the best tour directors around the globe, and the Holy Land is absolutely no exception to this rule. And our tour directors and local guides, they're typically from the region that they're in, and that gives them so much more breadth of knowledge. And then they also have the ability to tell you about new things that might be going on or take you to hidden gems. And we really appreciate that about our tour directors. It does make the vacation so much more special. So let's talk a little bit about geography here. Obviously, hopefully you all know where Israel is and where what part of the region or what part of the world it's in. But we all know it as the Holy Land. Israel boasts many wonders and points of interest for travelers of all kinds, not just religious travelers. And it is a small yet diverse Middle Eastern country with a sprawling coastline along the Mediterranean Sea, and a small portion of that coastline is on the Red Sea. And it is home to three major religions, or the birthplace, many people believe: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And they all, of course, have historic ties to the region. I always find it very interesting, the square footage of a country versus the population. And you will find that this is a little bit larger for 8.5 million people than some of the other destinations that we've highlighted over the last couple of weeks. But before we go, it's important to know what's required and what to expect. So you will have to have a U.S. passport. If you are a U.S. citizen, you'll have to have a passport that has 6 months validity from your return date. There are no visas required, but you may consider global entry for easy transactions or transitions in and out of the U.S. And people always ask me about the best time for weather, and many of our tours go year-round. But the seasons are very similar to ours here in the Midwest, with the warmest days May to September and cooler times in the fall. The winter months of December to March are much warmer than ours. The highs are going to be in the 60s in January and December, and the lows are going to be in the 40s. How nice would that be, right? I know we've had some pretty bad winters here in the Midwest lately. And then while traveling, the currency is the new Israeli shekel. And right now, I looked it up today, $1 is the equivalent about 3.59 shekels. So I always can, tell people you want to have the local currency for small transactions and, various bills. And then you also want to have multiple credit cards when you travel. American Express, despite their commercials, is not always accepted everywhere, nor is Discover. So I really would suggest having a MasterCard and then maybe a backup Visa, something like that, just so you have options should you need them. And then, of course, with Money Manners, we always talk about the specialties for shopping in the region. And the blue and white Armenian pottery is very popular. Also, wooden craftware, especially things that are made out of olive wood. A lot of people come home with wooden spoons and rolling pins and different things like that. And then jewelry, especially brooches that have embedded mother of pearl or diamonds. And then, of course, leather goods. So the jewelry is always easiest to pack, in my opinion. And then the other thing is anything that has to do, any beauty product that has to do with the Dead Sea. You might see, lotions and masks and all kinds of potions. Those will all be readily available for you as well. Then moving over to Jordan, because I put the two of them together because all three of the itineraries I'm going to talk to you about today, they can be done just Israel, or you could do with the Jordan extension. And if you're going all that way, and this is for most people a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, let's get them both taken care of. So Jordan attracts millions of visitors each year, and it's a lot different landscape than what you'll see in Israel. Israel is going to, Jordan has a lot more fascinating beauty. I mean, it has all different kinds of landscapes throughout the country. And it's home to some of mankind's earliest settlements and possesses some of the world's greatest relics. Due to its geographic location in the Mideast, it also plays a vital role as a conduit for travel and communications between Asia, Africa, and Europe, making it a very diverse and lively destination. And it's almost completely landlocked, as you can see kind of in this map. There's just a little part down here in the very center, the bottom, where they do have access to the Red Sea right there on the Gulf. But that's all of their water real estate, if you will. So very similar experiences when traveling to Jordan. However, U.S. citizens are required to get a visa. I actually just applied for my visa for Vietnam and Cambodia, and I used a service that our company has a partnership with, and the folks at Cruise Holidays can take care of that for you as well. They use Gen Visa, I believe, as well. It's a little bit more expensive, but the peace of mind and just knowing that it's done the right way from the start is well worth it, okay? As far as weather goes, April to November, you're going to have those warm temps. And then the shoulder season will be a little bit chillier, but I shouldn't even say chilly. It'll be cooler. It's not going to be chilly by any stretch of the imagination. And then currency is I'm always going to mess this up, Jordanian dinar. And that has a little less of an exchange rate from the US dollar as of today. But of course, that always will fluctuate. And when you're here, these are sometimes some of these great buys are hard. Pardon me, someone always comes while I'm doing these webinars and rings the doorbell and makes my dog go crazy. But we do have hand-woven rugs and cushions there, embroidered items, pottery, silver jewelry with the semi-precious stones, and of course the Dead Sea product. So all of that is available throughout your stay in Jordan. Some of them are just a little harder to pack, right? The other thing I wanted to talk about was the UNESCO World Heritage Site. Years ago when I took this job, I really had no idea what a UNESCO World Heritage Site was. And if you take a look at one of our brochures, or sometimes our competitors, we have these symbols and we talk about, oh, this is UNESCO World Heritage Site, or this is. And this is just a sample of some of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites that we will visit. And it's very interesting because to be included on the list, sites must be outstanding, have outstanding universal value, and meet at least one of the 10 selection criteria. Rather than bore you with all 10 of them, the one that stood out to me was they have to bear a unique or at least exceptional testimony to a cultural tradition or a civilization which is living or which has disappeared. And so I think that's really an interesting thing because they're all over the world, obviously, and you could really spend the better part of your travel life looking for these UNESCO World Heritage Sites. So moving along, this portion I want to just really talk about some of the things that you're going to see and give you some great visuals. Jerusalem, of course, is one of the oldest cities in the world, and it's considered to be holy to the three major religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And during its long history, Jerusalem has been destroyed at least twice, besieged 23 times, captured and recaptured 44 times, and attacked 52 times. And in 1538, the city walls were rebuilt around Jerusalem, and that was the last time that those were rebuilt. Today, those walls define what's called the Old City, which has been traditionally divided into four quarters, and known since the early 19th century as they have an Armenian section, the Christian section, the Jewish section, and the Muslim quarters. So it's kind of an interesting melting pot, obviously. And our tour directors and tour guides are very good at giving you, all the history that you can possibly handle, honestly. And the Old City became a a World Heritage Site back in 1981. And our tours typically will stay in Jerusalem anywhere from 3 to 5 nights. Pardon me. Which is great because it gives you time to get settled, to do laundry a couple of times, during your stay, and also to just have that be your headquarters and you go out and explore the region. So that's done by design. Pardon me. Of course, Bethlehem has obvious appeal, and you'll want to visit the Church of the Nativity in Manger Square. And then, of course, Bethlehem is a Palestinian city located on the west bank of Palestine, just 10 kilometers from Jerusalem. And the population is only 25,000, but millions of people come to Bethlehem each year. So that's a very interesting destination, right? Now, the next thing that we include in I think every one of our itineraries is the River Jordan, or some know it as the Jordan River, but most people know it as the River Jordan. And it's just 251 kilometers long, and it roughly flows north to south through the Sea of Galilee onto the Dead Sea. And it has major significance, of course, with in Judaism and Christianity. And the Bible says this is where the Israelites crossed over into the Promised Land, and that is also where Jesus of Nazareth baptized John the Baptist in this river. And this is just a very narrow portion of it. It makes it look so small, but obviously the river is very long, and it's just a very life-changing kind of spot for a lot of people. And of course, Nazareth is the largest city in the northern district of Israel, and it's known as the Arab capital of Israel. And the population here is just 67,000, and the inhabitants are primarily Arab citizens of Israel. Of those Arab citizens, 69% of them are Muslim, and 30% of them are Christian. And in the New Testament, this town was described as the childhood home of Jesus, of course. And so it is the center of many Christian pilgrimages, and there are shrines throughout the town. I always think it's very interesting to look and see how the houses look. And this is a great shot of, different apartment buildings. And some of them are, single family homes just don't happen throughout Europe and in the Middle East. So we're very lucky, those of us who live in single family homes. But it's just a very telling view into, how people get around and how they live together. Next up is Tel Aviv, and that is the second largest city in Israel, right after Jerusalem. And there, of course, are many biblical sites found in Tel Aviv: the Last Supper room and the garden, and the Way of the Sorrow. Those are several instances of this great. But I just love the water line and access, and the water is just incredible looking. Next up is Petra, and we talked a little bit about Petra before. It's believed to have been settled as early as 9000 BC, and was possibly established in the 4th century BC as the capital of this region. So it's on the new 7 Wonders of the World, amazing ruins, and again, just a really neat way to continue your quest in Jordan. Now, the Wadi Rum, I was not familiar with what a wadi was, and if you're with me, a wadi is a valley, ravine, or channel that is dry except for in the rainy season. So this is the Wadi Rum, and it's also known as the Valley of the Moon, which is a valley cut into the sandstone and granite rock in southern Jordan, and it's the largest wadi in Jordan. So kind of an interesting little tidbit there. And then when you're in Jordan, we either will begin or end in Amman, and this has the earliest evidence of settlement back in the Neolithic age. And some of the oldest human statues ever found, dated back to 7250 BC, were uncovered here in Amman. So today it's the capital and the most populous city in Jordan, and the center of economic, political, and cultural events. So very important, because throughout your stay and throughout your journey, you want to go into large cities like Amman, and then you also want to go into smaller villages like Bethlehem or like Nazareth. So we want to give you a wide range of experiences. And I think our product teams in particular, they spend a lot of time in destination finding exactly the right mix of what we think our passengers will want. So, your vacation, your way. What is your vacation style? And, as we discuss the highlights of each country, let's talk about the style that's best for this adventure. And just because you normally, travel on your own, doesn't mean that's the best choice for when you're going to the Holy Land. Our escorted group discoveries average about 36 passengers traveling together with a professional tour guide and driver and local guides throughout your stay. And we also offer escorted groups as private tours with our Globus brand. And this is if you're traveling with a family and you know everybody, it's your family, extended family, and there's 12 of you or 15 of you, or maybe it's your church and you have 22 people. We will take these groups for anywhere from 2 to 24 passengers. So I'll talk a little bit more about our private touring option as well. So first things first, let's talk about escorted tours. I just was talking with one of the agents at Cruise Holidays just a couple of days ago, and she had shared with me a thank you letter from one of her customers. And one of the things that stood out to me was the fact that she said, I never would have found these spots without being with our tour director and on this group. And it's very true. There are some things that you're just not going to be able to get into because, they don't have a website for you to take a tour of that particular destination. But when you're traveling as part of a group, we like to put it all in one neat, tidy package for you, and then you benefit from our buying power. So let's talk a little bit more about what that is. So with the Globus difference, we're going to do VIP sightseeing, which means where other people are standing in line, you're going straight to the front of the line. We have those expert tour directors and local guides. We'll include meals, typically breakfast every day, and several dinners, including welcome dinners and farewell dinners, usually 3-course dinners with wine and all those goodies. Superior accommodations, they're in the heart of the destination. You're not going to be staying out by an airport or 3 towns over with the Globus brand. Transportation and transfers, of course, we offer those to get you from point A to point B, but also to get you from the airport to your hotel and back to the airport again. And then we already talked about the religious services and time for reflection. And then we will also have some really great optional excursions that you can either participate in your free time or not. We do a lot of the taste of, so that you can go experience a destination through its culinary experiences. We might do some wine tastings. We might do some entertainment shows, lots of different choices in this arena. So you always want to make sure when you're making this decision, they are including what you want, right, and what you need. So first things first, we're going to talk about some itineraries with Globus. Journey through the Holy Land can be done for Catholics or for Protestant faith. It is a 9-day tour, and I included the map here because it's really important. The green circle is where you start. So you're going to start in Tel Aviv on this itinerary, and then every white dot is going to be a day stop. The little white circles, those are day stops, really because there's not enough to see for a whole night, or maybe they don't have accommodations that meet our standards. And then you're also going to have some time, like you start here in Tel Aviv, and then you're going to be, your next nightly stop is you're going to be there for 2 nights. I love this one because you do the Mount of the Beatitudes, and you'll do a little cruise of the Sea of Galilee. And then you're going to head down to Jerusalem. And then in Jerusalem, that's the red dot, that's where you end. But what I love about this is you're going to be there for 5 nights. So you can get settled in. You can unpack your stuff if you want. You'll have the opportunity to do grocery shopping, laundry if you want to. So lots of little things here that help make your visit easier on you. It's a moderate pace, and we include 16 meals on this particular itinerary. It runs from February to October. So remember, we talked about when the best time is, and this is $25.39 per person land only, based on double, so based on 2 people in the room. We do offer single supplements. So if you travel as a single, sometimes we have different specials for singles. So if you travel as a single, let's talk about it. It's great to be part of a group and still be a single because you're never really alone. So don't let traveling by yourself keep you away from going to your dream destination. This next one isn't much different other than the fact that it's 14 days, same itinerary in Israel, but we've added on Jordan. So this one goes from Tel Aviv to the Dead Sea, and what a really neat itinerary all the way around. It does include Petra. There's 21 meals included, same dates of operation basically, but a slightly different price point, okay? Now, we talked about Globus, and remember I said that was our first class fully escorted group travel. But we also have a brand called Cosmos, and their slogan is making travel dreams a reality. And I absolutely love this because you might be sitting there going, this is all well and great, Robin. I just saw that price point, and that's not something I can swing. I'm on a fixed income, or I've allotted so much for my travel each year because I'm in retirement, and I get that. Trust me, I get that. And so does Cosmos. So with the Cosmos brand, we are going to still have local hosts and expert drivers and guides. You'll get breakfast daily and some meals, some dinners. You will have some guided sightseeing, all the must-see things, and then things that are a la carte that you can add on. So you have a lower price point at the beginning, and then everything else, you can add as you see fit. Still first-class accommodations. I like to think of these as clean, comfortable, and convenient. You're not spending a ton of time in there. So remember, if you don't need a mitt on your pillow every night or turn down service, Cosmos might be the right fit for you. We still include transportation and transfers. We do have some optional excursions like I talked about. We have 30% more free time. So maybe you're traveling maybe you're listening tonight and you are a member of the clergy and you want to escort a group. Well, if you've got 30% more free time, maybe you want to take them somewhere that you know about. This gives you the freedom to do that. So just keep that in mind as we look at these next itineraries. We have 2 itineraries. Holy Land Discovery is the first one, and you can do this with or without Jordan. So I'll show you Jordan here in a minute. Again, it's a moderate pace, Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, 8 days, so it's a little bit shorter, but many of the same sites. The difference is going to be we're not going to include as many dinners, and we're not going to be at fancy hotels. But the price point is fantastic. $13.99 per person based on land only. You really can't beat that. And then let's take a look at what it looks like with Jordan. It jumps to 11 days, but you get Amman, you get Petra, you still get 3 nights in Jerusalem. I think this is a great option at just $20.29. So this works for a lot of people that want to see both. And then we have Biblical Israel. Now remember I said all of these itineraries, we have just basically 4 itineraries for Cosmos, but all of them are offered as a Catholic version and as a Protestant version. So Biblical Israel is a perfect sampler. It's has 14 meals included, which is breakfast daily and a couple of dinners. You get sightseeing in each city, operates pretty much year-round, and it's $13.99 again. So that's a really great price point for us. We like to try and keep things, under $1,500 on the Cosmos side. And then here it is with Jordan. Of course, a few more days, more comprehensive. The price point doesn't jump up too terribly much with this one. And then I know I talked a little earlier that I wanted to talk about private touring. Now, this is just with our Globus itinerary, so that journey through the Holy Land. We can turn that into a private itinerary for groups up to 24 passengers. You still get all the sightseeing, the VIP access, your tour directors, all that great stuff, the superior hotel accommodations, and then we'll scale down the vehicle based on how many people you're traveling with. So if you have 6 people, we're not going to put you on a 44 passenger bus, right? We're going to get you a mini bus. But this is a great option if you are traveling with your church. Maybe you're the person who's in charge of that, or you know the person who's in charge of that. Let's talk about this. We also do what's called custom tours, but you can contact Cruise Holidays and they can give you more examples of that. But for example, the pricing on this one for Journey Through the Holy Land, it's priced at $26.39. If you had 12 guests in a pre-made group and you wanted to make it private, it would just add $370 per person. If the group was 18 passengers, it'd just be $211 per person, and even lower if you had 24 passengers at just $107 more to make it a completely private package. So I think that's really a neat way to do it. Certainly if you have interest in that, I know I've had several people book this style specifically for the Holy Lands, and it has worked out very, very well. As we talked about earlier in the evening, we don't want you to miss out on faith and fun throughout the globe. And we do have many other itineraries in our faith-based travel brochure, and we can get one of those sent out to you, or we can have an electronic version sent to you tomorrow from the office. But we do the Marian shrines, we do Footsteps of the Apostle Paul, the Legacy of St. Patrick, which is all in Ireland, Grand Catholic Italy, the European Reformation. We follow the footsteps of Luther. And then don't forget, if this is something that is of interest to you, Oberammergau is coming up in 2020. It comes every 10 years. It is the Passion Play. It is in German. And we are already almost sold out. So if this is something that you're interested in, let's talk about it sooner than later with Cruise Holidays. We are staying at the Hotel Bold. All of our groups stay at the same hotel. We include the tickets to the Passion Play, which is one day of your trip. It starts in the morning. You take about a 4-hour break, then you come and have lunch and dinner. Then you come back in the evening, and they do the end of that day of the Last Supper. And it is really an amazing opportunity that won't be back until 2030. So let's make sure we get you there this year, or next year rather. And then I did want to tip my hat to the folks at Cruise Holidays, who are my sponsor for the evening, and I work very closely with them. Many of you I know are probably already clients of Cruise Holidays, which is fantastic. If you're new to the Cruise Holidays world, I really encourage you to come, give them a call, come and visit, because really a professional travel counselor is the best gift that you can give to yourself. There's so much information out there that you need somebody to kind of be a valued third party that has no skin in the game and that just wants to make sure that you have the best vacation possible. And that's what the folks at Cruise Holidays do, really. And then, of course, Mark and Mimi, they are the owners of Cruise Holidays. I believe, I can't even remember, I think it's been 30 years that they've been in business. They're from Kansas City. They raised their family there, and they are just amazing people. And I will say that any of the tours that you saw tonight, or any of the tours that we offer, you will never get a better price if you called us directly than what if you would calling Cruise Holidays. We give them special pricing. We give them special benefits. They really are I cover 5 states, and they're one of my best partners in 5 states. All right, so just remember, here are the numbers for Cruise Holidays. They are gone for the evening, but you can send messages to them through the website, and they are open. Let me make sure I have their hours. They are open Monday through Friday from, 9 to 6, and Saturdays from 9 to 3. And we will be doing more of these webinars. So if you have anything else that you would like to see on a webinar, please send them a message, or if you work with a counselor already, tell them what you'd like to see, because we have some really exciting stuff coming up, and we want to make sure that you are interested in what we're talking about. So I don't have any questions here. So if anybody has any questions, you can always send them to me afterwards, and we'll get them answered. Otherwise, have a lovely evening, and thank you so much for your time. Bye-bye.